What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today I want to talk about Serin because we did a huge live stream and tested this guy, and I have to say he is really cool and probably one of my favorite heroes in the game at the moment. A really strong mage, a really strong magic caster, and one of the heroes where I have to say I was surprised how strong he is, because we saw like the initial trailers, the initial releases, the initial leaks of those stats, and I was like, okay, could be interesting, but not really that appealing to me. Some people of course liked him. For me it was less like and then I did the live stream, not too convinced still that this had any chance of being good, and during the live stream I planned to upgrade him to Supreme Plus and then went up to Paragon 3 because I liked him so much. And not every hero can say that I just said okay, and let's go to Paragon 3, because that is really something, and we can see his damage in this situation, not even that out of the ordinary, but really his utility. And in PvP, also his damage can really be insane. In PvE, there are better options, so much that I have to say at the start. He's very nice for Tower of Light. For normal AFK stages, I still prefer Iron, and I think that is enough said about already, about the whole AFK stage part. He's decent, but can't outshine Iron there. And with that, I think we want to focus on Arena in this specific video. And I want to show you guys a fight against a very strong team, and then you can see why I really like him. So this is Brownie. We fight him quite often. Fellow content creator, pretty good in PvP. Very strong player. If you haven't already subscribed to him, he always makes like in-depth PvP stuff. And the team that he is using here right now is his Crown Wraec. Absolute monster. It's not even Crown. Could upgrade that to Crown though, or is it Crown? It doesn't show here. Interesting. And he also has like a P3 Dino, a P2 Dunlinger, his P3 Hugin, which makes me jealous, a P2 Fresto, and is fighting against our team here, which of course has very high Paragon. I think we have the Paragon advantage here. And we are using Serin on a Wildertal, and the Wildertal will make him concealed, so basically immune to all damage. And we use Arden here as well, that will summon lightning bolts, and every single enemy we CC, and moving an enemy is considered a CC, so we're going to cast a ton of lightning strikes, and then we're going to do more lightning strikes with Storm Strike spell, and this will make it seem like his team is very weak. That much I can tell you right now, and we have to do ×2 speed because this fight won't last very long. Yeah, is kind of a madness. First of all, he has of course all his units there. He has his Wraec, his Dino can deal a ton of damage if he goes into the air. If he doesn't go into the air though, there is not too much happening. I don't know how we even lost that Cyran there. I don't know. That is still one of the better fights that he had. And we still did a ton of damage. We can try fighting that again. Because this can end very early. The Wildertal is buffing non-ultimate damage, by the way, which is one of his stronger abilities. One of his stronger abilities are those 3 magic orbs that are flying around there. Those can quickly take out an enemy unit. And if those take out an enemy unit, then that can be absolutely devastating. We get an ult there. We do get an ult in between. And yeah, this ult will basically pull in all the enemies, and if he was unlucky, which he wasn't in this situation, this could have immediately taken out his Dino and made this all very sad. Our Serin survives here, our Ulmus is still alive, our Tazi is still alive, and that of course means absolute disaster for his Dino, because that guy stands no chance at doing anything anymore. We just get hit by our super annihilating magic orbs, and that gives us a very clear victory here. Fairly easy against this. The rest of the team stood no chance. Dino barely managed to save him. So that is already fairly cool. Let's try maybe fighting another team. So here we have one of the other top whales from my server, Endgame. We can quickly do a little bit of a fight here. He's going for full link over here, which is something I don't do anymore. We do a little bit of damage with our orbs, starting to Storm Strike spell. And that is something I want to mention. He gets his ult so quick, because he has initial energy and stuff, that he's super often countered by Lilymay. He will so often be the #1 hero on your team that gets his ult, because he has this ridiculous amount of initial energy on him that lets him get his ult super fast. And so Lilymay is like the #1 enemy for him, unless you use him for his other purpose, which is his support role. The support role that he can have is something that kind of doesn't rely on his ult. His ult, very, very nice. Once we get that, we get it's an absolute melt on the enemy. Everything that can get into it, it's basically destroyed once we have an Arden or like a Carolina on the board as well. Or a Bonnie does work as well. Bonnie is actually a little bit better to be used. As like a second hero, I'll use Arden, Carolina, or Bonnie. Bonnie is better if you can't really get an ult on Cyran. If you can't really get an ult on Cyran, you just use the second ability, which I super underestimated, by the way. This second ability, those 3 magic orbs, they look like an ability from a hero that you do no longer want to use in a game. Like, this looks like an ability from a hero that they released 3 years ago and nobody plays anymore. 80% damage. And I was like, that looks bad. 3 magic orbs, 80% damage, pretty weak ability. I overread in my first reading of this the adjacent enemies. Adjacent is always like there is one tile on which the hero stands and all the tiles next to it, they will also get hit by those orbs. Meaning if all 5 enemies stand pretty close together and he shoots his orbs and he hits all of them with it, that means it's 400% times 3, so 1200% damage every 8 seconds with this ability, which is an absolutely insane thing. If you put skill damage on this, if you have like 4, the skill damage alone would add another 24%, which is then of course times 15, because times 5 and times 3, and is absolutely ridiculous. 24% times 15 means we are at 360% extra on top of the damage that we already have. So that is absolutely ridiculous for just like a second ability, and you can make use of that to just clear the enemy team, which is ridiculous. The other abilities are not that insane. This seems crazy. It's just like, I don't know. That didn't really convince me, even though it deals damage. It's cool. This is like a signature stuff. The signature stuff is in the Mythic Plus and you 1+10. If Merlin is present on the enemy side and people ask who Merlin is basically that this is us. We are Merlin. The player is Merlin, and if Merlin is present on the enemy side, that means if we are fighting in PvP. Because if we fight another player, then they will be present on the enemy side. They are Merlin, so we are fighting Merlin. That is the thing here. Merlin is silenced for 8 seconds, and that means we can't use artifacts, because artifacts are not like artifacts. Artifacts are spells of Merlin, really. They are called Lightforge spell because it is a spell that Merlin casts. In our situation, that would be we. So we block the enemy Merlin from using the artifact, which is very, very interesting and gives us some very interesting things to do. For example, I made a video recently explaining the Graveborn Stormstrike combo. Stormstrike, an artifact that deals damage every time, and enemy loses 40% of their HP. The Graveborn faction skill reduces the HP of 2 enemies by 54% at the start of the battle, so they lose immediately a ton of HP and trigger Stormstrike spell. If you use Merlin, you block the enemy from using Stormstrike spell from 8 seconds. The Graveborn damage will hit, but won't trigger Stormstrike spell. So that is, for example, one combination. One of the strongest artifact combination in this season can just be broken up with this +10 ability. Or, which I thought was very, very interesting, if you go for the starter story, we have a very, very established artifact meta here that mostly revolves in PvP around the lightning spell and confining spell in some situations, star shard spell. Especially a lightning spell for burst teams is very vulnerable to this, because it is used in some situations for to make a hero that is vital to the team immune to the CC. Gains control immunity, is unaffected, really. I think the description is pretty bad, actually, at this point. Yeah, it was another topic. You put that on like a Diana quite often. The reason for that is it gives you a non-permanent buff. Why a non-permanent buff on Diana? Diana needs non-permanent buff to trigger his Mythic Plus, which is why some people, by the way, talked about this about Serin as a Diana counter. He has this ability here at Mythic Plus that summons a light spear that hits all enemies once his intoxication is fully stacked. And this has like this true damage part as well, which is pretty much insane. And the intoxication is given to you every single time you get a non-permanent stat boost. You need 3 non-permanent stat boosts to max this intoxication. And one that the players usually use for this is Enlightening Spell. So Enlightening Spell will give him 1 stack of intoxication, and then they use 2 other sources to max this out and trigger his Mythic Plus. If you can take away intoxication for 8 seconds, then he will not get this Mythic Plus for like the 8 seconds. And this is a bit of a problem, as well, no, it won't run out because, well, last 12 seconds are still alright in that sense, but it will take 8 seconds longer for him to really do damage. And maybe then is in his ult, well, I don't think he triggers it. So yeah, that is a problem. And makes Diana a whole lot weaker and a whole lot more vulnerable, because when you are in the back and your lightning spell gets lifted up for 8 seconds, you can get hit by Confining Spell, you can get hit by other forms of CC, maybe the enemy will just send like a Savina over and you get feared, or there is some other form of CC, or you fight an Iron team and you were relying on the lightning spell. All that won't work anymore. So this is a very strong ability as well. And for PvP, there are some more exciting things. We tried out a lot of stuff in the formations. I want to show like 2, maybe 3 more fights here. One very interesting one, we fought Brownie here. Jamiva tried a lot of things, Swampy 12 tried a lot of things. Atraxi is the other form that I wanted to show. This is a form with Dunlinger, with Callan P3, Bloody Whale by the way. A Bonnie, and the interesting thing is here we have a Crown Cyran. Absolutely insane. If you want to see more of this Crown Cyran, by the way, you can check out Atraxi on YouTube and probably see some very nice videos about Atraxi as well. But for now, we can show you Atraxi's team right here. And we have the Cullen here and the Graveborn team. Basically annihilating the parts of my team that are not protected by the wilder stuff. And so my team is very much so incomplete now. And the interesting part and why this can counter wilder a little bit is every time one of your heroes dies, that will reduce the duration of the concealment. So while Atraxi is still relatively safe here in the arms of Callan, we could say, my concealment got lifted, and in that situation, that is a little bit of a problem. And we didn't get to defeat the enemy yet, so I was relying a little bit on ult, while Atraxi was like, nah, I don't even need an ult, I'm pretty fine just going ahead and just like nuking the rest of your team. The Storm Strike spell, of course, that part didn't work. That would have made it even more insane. So I really like this version, but it uses Callan, which many people don't have. Maybe you can replace it with Thorn. And it uses Bonnie with the Graveborn skill, so that is a combination. Dunlinger here, I would definitely recommend actually in this team, because the good thing about this is we can very much so live with Dunlinger. We don't really need ults. We have like very strong normal skills, so that works out in our favor. Yeah, very interesting combination of the team with Bonnie in that as a damage dealer that I think can work very well and doesn't even rely on an ult. So non-ult damage that does a ton of things. And then I wanted to show you guys like a very fancy thing, because it's also against Turtle Legs, and I thought this fight looked very, very funny because suddenly his team vanishes. And I thought this looks like very cool. It's around 82 seconds and then his team is suddenly gone. Yep, it's just like here. And goodbye. Yep. Thought this just looked very, very funny, because the team just immediately vanishes to like a Storm Strike chain, which is very, very cool. So, yeah, that is what I wanted to show you in terms of PvP about this. I wanted to give also a little bit of a recommendation of who wants to summon him. In my opinion, he is the number 3 priority all-hero recruitment S tier for Lightbearer, which is a long sentence, but like if you go for your S tiers for Lightbearer, I think you should go for Ronan and Sonya first, and then the third on your list should be Serin, because he's very cool. He has some PvE use. You can use him a little bit in AFK stages. You can use him for tower, which is pretty good. And then you go for him as a PvP hero. He is a hero that if you want to do a rate up now, you get a very, very strong PvP hero. And if that is your goal, then that's cool. And you can go for that. If you don't want a PvP hero, well, then he's really not your thing. And I think he's a very nice hero to add to your toolbox. I explained the artifact utility, and I think this is really what makes him great and a very cool thing. If you want to try out the teams, of course, we saw the Atraxi team, you can copy that. Or if you want my current defense or the formation that I currently use, that looks like this. Should also be fairly easy to counter just by seeing it. I guess we don't really need... or do we? Wait, I can probably show that a little bit better. There we go. that's easier to see. That is currently what the formation that I'm using with the Wilder skill. You can try this out if you want. It isn't completely impervious to damage, but still fairly interesting. And then try out the Atraxi comp and check out all the content creators that were in this video. We had Brownie, we had Atraxi, and we had Turtleneck. So that's something. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And with that, I wish you a great day. And we'll see us in the next one.